Hello and welcome to Queued Up. With me today, Davis, Tadlock, Tad, Chris, Party Foul Topher, and the one and only Eli Hensley, aka the Ninja. Welcome, guys. How we doing today?
Good.
Doing good. What's your name? I didn't hear your introduction.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Eli. I appreciate that. I am CJ Collins, aka the Pathfinder. Today we will decide and find out if any Call of Duty roster will ever make it through an entire season without changing. I don't know if we'll find the answer to that question, but we hope to, along with some League of Legends and some Valorant and some Counter-Strike. But we're going to jump into Call of Duty first, and we're going to talk right off the bat about this LAG team, the Los Angeles Gorilla Mates. They've made some changes recently. They added Fellow, they dropped Lins, and they benched Priesta. So, Davis, I'm coming to you first. What do you think about these changes?
I think these changes are definitely needed. The LAG team has been struggling this year, to say the least. I do think that there is still some hope left to build some momentum towards champs. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about the changes so far. I know they still technically are looking for one player, as they've said to have replaced Priesta with Fellow and still bench Lins, and so looking to replace him. Not sure where they'll go from there. I think it's going to be difficult for them to build some points and really make it into champs, but I do see these changes possibly improving the roster. I mean, when you're already in that state that they were, it's kind of hard not to improve, so I like it.
Yeah, I mean, this is an 11th place team right now in the standings. They have 30 points overall. I don't know if it's going to make a difference in a lot of ways outside of this regular season to see what they're going to do. I don't love the changes myself, but Eli, any thoughts? The roster changes.
I mean, the LA Gorillas, along with several other teams, it kind of feels like just desperate measures to try to scrap together a team that might be able to make it to champs. I'm still skeptical about this roster in particular, but it's going to become a game of okay, all these new teams, who can find their way to work together the fastest, who can figure out the way they want to play Call of Duty, and who can get on the same page. This team has the potential to do that, but some of the other teams we're going to talk about, I think, might have a better potential to do so.
Yeah, and then ultimately, these are all rumor mill stuff, right? We don't know if this stuff is true. We don't know if it's going to happen. It may not. And it seems like among the entire league, there's just shifts everywhere. There's a lot of teams moving in a lot of different directions. Another change happening in recent news, and this one is confirmed. All that stuff on the LAG, we don't really know who's going to be there. We just know that Priesta did get benched and that they did drop Lins, but we don't know if Fellow's going to actually go to that roster yet. He may not. It could be somebody else. We do know that the Rocker did sign Kenny recently, and so he's going to go play with those guys. The Minnesota Rocker. Eli, I'm coming to you. What do you think? Adding Kenny, dropping Paul X. Does this make sense? Does it not make sense?
I mean, Kenny, yes, he's had one of the worst seasons he's ever had and anyone's ever had, but he's still Kenny. He's a world champion. I think that he's going to probably help the Rocker team, but they're in a similar position to, LA Gorilla Mates. They don't have a lot of points. They're trying to find their way into champs. Does Kenny now step up and play better with a new set of surroundings? We'll have to see. I think overall, though, this is definitely a good thing for Kenny. Whether it's a good thing for Rocker yet, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Chris, what do you think? You like the Kenny move? You like the LAG Gorilla Mates? What's going on over there in your brain?
I don't know. I feel like the Kenny move is a little lateral. He did play a little worse than Paul statistically if you look at it. But it is a roster move. It is something that, there's really nowhere to go but up, potentially. So Kenny, if he plays as he did on Optic, it just stays lateral. I think they just kind of stay where they are. Maybe a new team environment does help him out a bit. Maybe he plays a little bit better under that new team environment, and possibly they could make it to champs. So we'll have to see how it plays out. But as of right now, I'm kind of just sitting on that line where it's okay, they just move someone around. They got Kenny, so they kind of have the hype around Kenny. They can bring a little more attention to them, but I don't know if it really helps them right now.
And just to kind of bounce off of what he said, I think, Rocker is kind of in an interesting position, especially when you look at them specifically against the other teams that we're talking about making roster moves. I mean, they're still in it. They could definitely still make a run at champs. And I think that, like Eli said, I mean, Kenny's a proven player. He's proven that he can do it at the highest level and that he is a champion. So hopefully he can find his strides again and they can get something together because, like I said, I mean, this team's definitely in a position where they could truly make a difference. And so I'm hoping it works out for him.
Yeah, I think the Rocker, I mean, they're sitting in 10th place right now. They have 90 points. They're about a 15-point spread to make it to champs alone. I think this could be enough of a difference to kind of get them into maybe that top 7, top 6 kind of stratosphere with the addition of Kenny. But I also think it might not be enough. It feels like you have gone through 2 different seasons right now. And do you think exchanging a Paul X for a Kenny who hasn't been playing well, like we're not getting the normal Kenny. We're not getting the superstar that we've seen that's run a bunch of rings and done some stuff with E United and 100 Thieves and made big plays. We're getting a Kenny that's like got dropped from Optic because he was playing like doo-doo. Is it enough? I don't know. What do you think, Eli?
I mean, I don't know if it's fair to say like he specifically was the problem. I think he became the scapegoat and had the worst stats. But it's very apparent that that roster just was not jiving at all in any respect. I mean, we've seen now Shotzi come out and say he just wasn't comfortable playing around Pred. There's that discomfort. It seems like Pred didn't even get along with Kenny. It's like there's a lot of just internal turmoil that's going to make everyone play worse. And maybe Kenny just checked out the hardest and just like, I'm not even going to try anymore. My roster is screwed. So I think he's going to have a resurgence that maybe people are not expecting. At the same time, though, maybe Black Ops 6 isn't Kenny's game. You know, the omnidirectional movement, it's a heavily movement-based shooter. He's more of a tactician. So it's hard to say. I do think that this is only possible to go up from here for him, though.
Yeah, I mean, this Optic roster, as you look at them right now, is now Skies, Hook, Shotzi, and then the addition of Dashy in there within that group. It's like, Chris, I'm coming to you on this one. Is like, do you think that they have made the right changes to get them out of their current slump? Because they're sitting at 110 right now. You know, if they have 2 bad, I don't know what you call them, legs within the season right now, they're not going to make it that far, and they really have to perform if they want to try and get to that 2 or 3 slot.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we did get to see Skies play with them in the last major. So I think he was meshing kind of well with them. They did he of course had one bad performance, one little bit better performance. Of course, they were both losses at the end of the day, but I think it showed kind of maybe just that change in environment was kind of like Eli said, needed to be done, and it kind of just gave them that boost. Also, Skies just seems like he's a, charismatic person to be around, and it could be bringing that much needed charisma to the team that's been kind of down in the dumps. They're going into their major, barely making it, right? Not a lot of wins under the belt. They end up losing it, but you bring someone in that could kind of, build the team up a little bit, have that charisma to help them into these next couple of majors, to possibly help them stay in the running for champs and even have probably a better, seeding going into champs. I think this roster could possibly do it, and we can see some good things coming out of them, especially going into Major 3.
Yeah. Another roster we're looking at for the roster change size is the Falcons. They've tried their experiment as an all-Saudi roster, and now they're going to where they're just keeping one of their Saudi players and they're adding 3 players. And we've heard a lot of rumors around who those 3 players are. Could be some Pred, could be a couple of different SMGs and different ARs on the market. We talked about Priesta, we talked about Arcides. Are these kind of the guys that are going to go there? Is it going to be somebody else? Eli, I'm coming to you. If you had the perfect scenario for what you wanted this Vegas Falcons roster to look like, who has 0 points right now, has to have an amazing 2-limb stretch to be able to get to that top 8 spot, who are you taking on the market right now?
I mean, it has to come down to the available options, right? Like we know Pred just became an option. We know Arcides been floating around. I think those 2 are who most people assume are going to become the new core of this team. But like you said, they are, with 0 points, it's like their chance to champs, in my opinion, is impossible. I don't think they're going to make it. Even if they win the next 2 majors, that's just 200 points. They could maybe squeak in, but they're not going to win the next 2 majors, let's be honest. These pickups look great, though. If they do get Pred, Arcides, and Priesta, who is also in the rumor mill to potentially join this roster. I mean, these are all extremely talented veteran players that could bring this roster to new heights, but unfortunately their new heights is like, 10th place on the leaderboard?
Yeah.
And I somewhat fear that these players, Pred and Arcides, might be at the stage of their career where they're just cool to collect a paycheck, man. We know Falcon's probably paying them good money. Like, they're just going to vibe out and play as good as they can, and then maybe buy some time for next season when that rolls around. Maybe they can build towards something bigger, but I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in this Falcon squad.
Yeah, it's a tough situation with a lot of pressure. Davis, what are you doing if it's you?
I think it's exciting for Falcons fans. I'm kind of leaning the same way. I think Pred and Arcides are definitely going to be their people that are going to be their core and they build around. I've heard also Priest as a player they're looking at after being dropped, Prolude as well. The main thing, though, I think I'm on the same boat as you. I just think it's too late for them to really make a champs push. I think, though, with the way that the team was playing with the all-Saudi roster, like something had to be done just simply. Like they just simply weren't good enough to be competing in the league. And I think you could genuinely see that watching them play. So I think that's why the move has came about. And even though it is a move to maybe prepare for next season, I think it's good to go ahead and get the team together and see how the vibes are, see the momentum that they can gain.
Yeah, it's interesting. I look at this as a definite like retirement home a little bit for the rest of the season. Like they're going to hang out and vibe and have a good time and enjoy their couple weeks of the season here. But I just don't see it going anywhere. I also don't see that team being able to click. I think Arcides is a great AR, but I don't think he's prime and some of the best in the league right now. And I also don't think that Pred's really in a position where he can find another sub that's really going to help him be able to battle through. I would say if like they can pull like a Hydra off the market, which would be crazy, or an Abizi, or like that would make sense, and I think that has some firepower behind it, but that is just not going to happen right now in the season. Those guys are already locked in, so.
I feel like they'd have to be paid triple salary for those players to move to that roster.
100%.
But the Falcons got the dollars, brother. They can do it if they want.
Yeah. At this point, though, it kind of just feels like they're trying to save face, right? Like, let's just try to scavenge together a decent enough roster to not lose every single series. It's like...
Yeah.
Is a win to them to literally win a series for the rest of the season. It's confusing to me. To me, it feels like wasted dollars, but hey, if you got infinite cash, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see what happens with all these roster changes. Obviously, the next week coming up, they're going to jump in matches, so those roster locks are going to happen in the next couple of days. So we'll know who is playing on all those teams. Let us know what you think. Who you think the Vegas Falcons are going to take? Are they going to take Pred? Is he actually going to go there? Is something else going to happen behind the scenes that none of us know about? We'll see, but I am going to switch gears. As one of our co-casters from another show said, I say switch gears every time. So we're switching gears once again. We're going to go to League of Legends. We're talking LEC. We're looking at week number 1 right now. We saw Fnatic, G2, KC all collect some wins from this weekend. The most notable being KC over Koi. Koi threw that game 3 against KC this past weekend and allowed KC to take the series, and we saw KC kind of rocket through first stand, so maybe they are the leader of the LEC currently, but we are going to find out over the next couple weeks. But a question for you, Mr. Topher. What improvements could Koi make for them to be able to get out of the current spot they've created with the 2 losses they just collected?
I think Koi's issue, and I talked to a lot of people about this, is they don't know how to close games out really well just yet. They're on the cusp of being like between A and S tier, but they're staying in that A tier right now just because they can't really close out the games. And it, showed in that match versus KC, they had a 6K gold lead, but didn't just make some little mechanical mistakes like a Rakan trying to flash in on a support Elise, ends up giving up a kill, a 1-to-1, but then leads to more kills for KC to get back into the game. Stuff like that, they have to clean up. They have to figure out the way to get their win conditions and figure out just how to squeak past. Also, we'll have to see how they adjust the draft. I think week 1, they kind of went into a little bit more of unique stuff. We did have the Annie picked on top lane, which I think you can do in week 1, especially when you're playing against one of the better teams and you're kind of on that 50-50 of winning or not. They play that, it didn't work. We maybe don't see it for the rest of the split, and they just play more standard. They play standard, they win. They play stuff Annie top, they don't close out games, they lose. So once they fix those 2 things, I think they're right up there with KC and G2 going forward.
Yeah, Eli, it sounds like Koi is just missing this clutch factor in these game 3s to be able to close out some of these series. Do you think that's something they're going to be able to get throughout the season, or do you think they're kind of sealed their fate within this first week and those 2 losses?
It is really tough to start with 2 losses to come back from that, but you're exactly right. To me, it feels like the mistakes they were making were not like gauging which team fights they should take and were capable to win in the moment. For example, like they've played hyper disciplined and so well up until like the 25-minute mark against G2, and then they decided to take a team fight, which in my opinion, teams from the LCK would not have even taken, and then they get triple Nico ulted by Lebrov, and then get full aced, and then they just can't come back. They end up losing within the next 10 minutes. It's like, They need to understand how to see that situation ahead of time and assess, like, okay, is this the team fight that we want to take? Are we in the right positions to win it? And if not, that you got to back up and just take a better fight, continue to play discipline. So if I see that and they actually manage to win the rest of their matches, like they could end this split with a reasonable record, but it does hurt to have two heartbreaking losses against two of the best teams in the early goings. They're going to have to win out from here.
And I kind of want to comment on that as somebody that doesn't fully understand the macro, maybe to the level of you guys of the game. That's one thing that I saw that was actually really big for Koi is, I mean, the fact that they did face G2 and Carmine Corp in their first 2 games of the year, 2 great teams, and they were able to get a map from them. I did see the fact that, they were ahead in these games and they gave up the lead. But to me, that gives them a little bit of confidence because it shows, okay, we were able to get a gold lead. Now what can we do from there to really build on that and close the game out, like you said?
Yeah,
I think it's some positives.
And we saw from the first strike competition the fact that KC went out and lost their first 2 games, was able to get to the playoffs, and then make it all the way to the finals. And they were kind of showing the same thing against some of the other teams from the LEK. It was just like you can show up slow and then be able to build back in the end, because ultimately what does matter is getting to that playoff spot. And they're still going to have a run at the playoffs at this point.
Yeah.
Chris, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, I think as they said, I don't think it's just will they make playoffs. I do think they will make playoffs. This team, as I said, is an A-tier team. And regardless, they had the 2 hardest matches. Like, they're not like Fnatic today, who did losing versus SK, who get 2 teams that are considered lower in the tiers, and they get an easier start. They're like, okay, we're just going to push these matches, probably because they're going to draw the most amount of eyes. KC versus Koi was the match of the week stated by the LEC, and they provided a match of the week that we got to see. They have JoJo, who came over from NA, looked really good on the Yone. Aloya, who may be considered one of the weaker spots in the jungle, ended up showing up at the game say 1. He did really well. So maybe that is the X factor you're talking about, is once Aloya ends up, kind of meshing well, starts playing much better, and gets control of that jungle to help the lanes out, especially after having the meta swap turn into now lanes are kind of more standardized, where you have the 2-1-1, and then the jungler. You have really good laners. You have Super in the bot lane. You have Myron in the top lane, as long as he doesn't play any any top lane, of course. But he plays regular, the more standardized meta picks, plays really well. You have JoJo, who was actually performing pretty well as well, except for some of the games, he ended up trolling a little bit. But at the end of the day, I think they have that ability that they showed they can hang with the top. These rest of the teams, I think they're just going to sweep them, to be honest.
Do you think the SK win over Fnatic today is good for Koi?
Of course it is. I mean, it shows that they're beatable. And you look at a lot of tier lists, people are putting Fnatic in that, ace tier as well for it. They have a good team, Fnatic, for sure. I was watching the games today, and they should have won game 2. Ended up kind of making the same mistake that Koi did when they played against KC, and ended up throwing a game off of an objective as well. That gave SK the ability to win in the late game because they could just push and win through. It does show that there is a lot of competition within the LEC, though. But I think we're seeing, a team like Fnatic, who should have won that game, end up losing, can make it so that as long as Koi doesn't get this, into their heads and they don't just completely fall off because they lost these 2 games, which is possible, I think they can, win out, easily hit that 3rd or 4th slot going into the playoffs.
Absolutely, and we'll keep watching the LEC in the next coming weeks. Obviously, week 2 is going to happen next, and we'll see what's going on. I'm a G2 fan. I want G2 to make it out of here, and I enjoyed watching KC play. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks. We'll be following that. But we're going to go to the next thing, which is Valorant. We had some VCT Americas action happen this weekend, and ultimately, Crew came out on top over Sentinels. So the question becomes, is Crew the real deal? Coming to you first, Chris. Obviously, Crew take down Loud in week 1 and Sentinels in week 2. Are Crew on the rise right now?
I think they are. And I think they've been on the rise since the America's kickoff, before Masters Bangkok. They end up losing to Loud in the playoffs, then end up having to go through a run into bot lane. In the bottom half of the bracket. They did end up rebeating Loud, beat some others, end up losing to MIBR in a 2-1, who ended up losing to Sentinels at the end of the day. But since then, they've kind of been on the rise. They did end up beating Sentinels. They did beat Loud, who are 2 teams that beat them in those kickoffs as well. So I think we're seeing them really start to mesh well. And, one, gripe I've kind of had with Valorant is you don't really get to play as much as some of the other leagues, for other games. So you don't really have that ability to really rise up and play as many games to kind of get there. And I think if it was a longer kickoff season, we may have seen them rise a little bit more through it, and maybe even take a game off or a series off of MIBR and get to that losers finals versus Sentinels. But now that we see them getting into the stage here, they're kind of showing that they've been putting in the work in the off season as well from Bangkok till now. And I think they're the real deal, and they're going to continue to keep rising.
Yeah, Eli, last week we looked at the Sentinels roster and kind of put together on who we thought the MVPs were on that side. They take down 100 Thieves week 1. It's kind of squeaked by. It wasn't like a super big game. I expected them to just roll over Crew in week 2. But ultimately, as I was watching the matches, the second half, they just were not good at all.
Yeah, it was frustrating to watch. They won a single round in both the latter halves of those matches, and it's just like, it feels like they have negative ice. Like, when every time they're trying to clutch, they just fail miserably. And I don't know if I want to rag too much on Sentinels, because I do think that a big part of it is how good Crew is. This full Chilean roster, I think, is surprising a lot of people. Mazzino and Kesnet were absolutely insane in that series and had like some of the biggest pop-off performances that we've seen so far. But man, on the Sentinel side, it just really feels like they're missing Tens. Like, Tens was the guy that would often get the pick that would open up Zekin to play parts of the map that he wouldn't normally have access to. He kind of relied on Tens in a lot of those spots. Now he's just off dying by himself, and the roster is suffering for it. I also kind of feel like they haven't really figured out what agents they want to play. There's a lot of overlap between these players, and I think they're still figuring out their comfort zone. And against a team that's already got it figured out, they're going to look pretty bad. That's why I think Crew took them pretty handily.
Yeah, none of the Sentinels players were making any big plays. It was like you were following, and it's pretty consistently. And they were getting the spike down. They were getting into these spots, but then they were constantly losing that retake battle. And that's what I saw, is they just were not holding sites. The setups were not good, not winning any fights, and then losing the retakes pretty consistently. But ultimately, I do think you're right in the fact, Eli, that like Crew did show up to play. They looked pretty good on that side. Davis, coming to you. Crew have 2G, Evil Geniuses, and 100 Thieves left in the season, and it looks like they might be able to squeak all 3 of those out based off these first 2 weeks. But what do you think? Are they the contender for the top spot right now?
I think they are. Officially after this week, I want to say, it completely surprised me. last week we sat here and I said how I thought Crew maybe would have a chance against Sentinels, but I didn't think they would get it done. Boy, they did. Like you said, shout out to Kesnet and Mazzino. Both huge games from them, 40-plus kills between them two in just 2 maps. And yeah, I really do see them beating these other teams. 2Game Esports, they did have a good showing this week. They got a win under their belt. 100 Thieves with a good game as well. But yeah, I think Crew's the top dog as of now. With the performance they had against Sentinels, and Sentinels beating 100 Thieves like they did, 100 Thieves smacked EG like they did, and EG has also beat 2G. So that tells me right now Crew's the top dog alone. So maybe there will be something that shakes up. I said that last week about Sentinels. I think they'll be on top, and they're not now. So maybe something crazy will happen, but I see Crew topping this group.
Yeah, that 2-game game 2 on Lotus, when they were able to seal the deal on that side. 2Game showed up this weekend to play too. I know it's just an honorable mention here, but those guys won a game that they should not have won. That's clearly the bottom team in this whole thing, and they were able to take down Loud, right? Somebody that we've seen not playing well right now, has historically been a good roster, but it did not show up to play on this one. But 2Game is no joke, so it'll be interesting to see as 2Game goes against Crew if they're going to be able to squeak a win out or not.
Yeah, and I think too. In Valorant, with the abilities in the game, and I think that really kind of levels teams up, and so I think it gives opportunities to teams like 2G to, on their day, if they're playing right, really have the chance to upset some of these teams.
Speaking of G's and 2s, we're going to look at...
that was so confusing also.
Great segue.
That was like EG.
2Gs or G2?
Yeah. We're going to look at the G2 roster right now. Jonah P, Trent, Valen, Leaf, and the one and only Jogamo. The question becomes, are they the only team to beat at this point? Because when I look at that roster and I look at all the other rosters, I'm thinking to myself, that team has showed up and played. But Eli, coming to you, does that group, have they reached their ceiling? Can they actually take it down? Or are they just kind of where they're going to be forever at this point?
No, I think their ceiling is still higher. I know that Leaf was dealing with a lot of personal issues at home at the last major. So I think that once he's able to clear his head and come back into his own, he's going to step up. He's an incredible player when he's playing at his best. I think Valen doesn't get enough credit. This guy is the IGL for the roster, and his gameplay is underrated at best. He's been an absolutely integral part of this team since they formed, in my opinion. So, I mean, as far as them having a ceiling, it doesn't feel like anyone should have a ceiling. Like, they should all be getting better. They're going to be practicing quite a bit. They've still got tons of matches to play. And Jagamo is just Jagamo. He's never going to let them down. So I think their ceiling is still higher.
Yeah, Chris, they have to play C9, NRG, and Leviathan still. And I think those are 3 easy wins. What do you think?
I think 2 might be. I don't think C9 will be, though.
Okay.
I think C9 has looked actually pretty good so far in their first 2 matches here. A lot better than I thought they would be, to be honest. And I've actually really enjoyed watching them play so far. I think C9, especially right now, they've had a little bit of a, not too hard of a first start, but they are, right now sitting in that first of that group because they do have the round win advantage over G2 right now. I think they can ride this high, and when they do end up facing G2, might be able to give them a bit of run for their money. Do I think they'll beat them at the moment? I don't think so. I think it'd be a 2-1 at the end of that series in this group. But if we are going to see a team who would take a series off of them right now, I would give it to C9.
Yeah, the other team that we were looking at over this weekend, G2 played MIBR, and I don't know if you guys watched this, but this was a close match.
Yes.
Davis, what do you think? Could you breaking that one down?
Well, to break it down, I think, number one, I think Aspas is still the best player in the world. That's my opinion. I think he has been for the last couple years, and I think he showed that in this game. Really, he was the spark for MIBR, and I think he held him in it, with his play, and that's why it was so close. I do think, G2 as a whole, I think they're a little bit more well-rounded than MIBR. I do think MIBR is a great team, and honestly, I think that they're making a great case to be the best team from Brazil this year. But at the end of the day in this match, I just think G2's supporting cast was just a little bit better than the supporting cast for Aspas, and that's why they were able to edge them out in the end.
Yeah, we'll have to continue watching these matches, but some of these teams are pretty closely ranked. So we'll see as we walk into week number 3 coming up. And we'll do our predictions on our Thursday show. But for this show today, the highlight of the show has to be Counter-Strike this weekend. It was an amazing weekend at the Blast Premier event in Lisbon. We saw several teams go at it. But first, I want to start with the 2 that didn't make it. We're talking about G2, once again, they're everywhere, and NAVI. They fall flat. They did not have a great playoff showing. Each of those teams, NAVI faced off against Team Spirit and got 2-0'd. And then G2 faced off against Mouse and also got 2-0'd. Both these teams are in a weird place right now, I think, especially G2. But we're going to go and talk about NAVI really quick. So Eli, in the current form, NAVI, Team Spirit, can NAVI take this match down ever?
I don't think so. Not until a team change happens, until Donk gets picked up by Vitality. Donk needs to not be on the team. JL needs to pop off. They need some more star power. They need to start winning on Dust. It's just there's too many things against them, right? Like when I dug into the stats, yes, NAVI have defeated Spirit twice in their last 10 encounters, but when that happens, JL is always overperforming by outside of his expectation. They're either keeping Dust close or they're winning on Dust, and Donk is not playing his best. All 3 of those things were not true in this case, and they got destroyed. Yeah, I don't think that NAVI has a chance. They are at a point where after their fall from grace between last year and now, it feels like they're going to start thinking about team changes.
Yeah, I think any team that goes up against Spirit on Dust 2 doesn't have a shot right now, so it's like...
They beat them before, though. One of the few teams that has.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's very difficult to beat them on Dust.
Definitely is. Interesting. And then let's look at this other matchup. Davis, coming to you. G2 face off against Mouse. G2, the only player that really looked good on that team was Monacy. I think Snacks and Heavy God could make a case as being average at best, but Hunter and Malbs not looking good at all. So if we look at that roster, I mean, do you think Monacy is just like, yo, get me out of here, peace?
I think you start to ask yourself that question for sure, because at the beginning of the year, Mondesi did turn down an offer from the Falcons to join their team. They had approached him to leave G2 and come join his old teammate Nico. Ultimately, Mondesi said no. He wanted to stay with G2. So that shows that, he had faith in this team and he really believed that they could go really far. But, through their showings, through these first three majors of the year, I think it definitely draws some questions in his brain because, he's frying out. And as a player, whenever you're frying out and you're just not getting the results, that takes a toll on you whenever it's consistently happening. So I wouldn't be surprised if we started to see some teams, probing him, trying to pull him out. I don't know if it'll happen. But, eventually, I think if they keep these results, he'll definitely part ways.
Yeah. Any thoughts?
Yeah, a young player like him, he has his whole career ahead of him, right? But it's like every decision he makes is very important. Everyone knows this kid is going to be the future of Counter-Strike regardless, but it's like, what do you do right here, right now? Do you want to stick it out with this team, see if you can get better with him? Do you jump ship right away? It's really a personal decision, I think. Like, it depends on, maybe he's got some friendships, maybe he doesn't feel like he's really given this squad the chance that they deserve just yet with his ability, or if, Kerrigan's knocking at his door and says, hey, why don't you come join FaZe? So it's really hard to say from his perspective, but any move would not be surprising to me. I do expect him to probably be on a different team before the end of this year, though.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll see what happens with him. As we cruise through the playoff bracket, we saw Vitality go all the way to the finals against MOUZ, but they did take a quick stop and play against Team Spirit, which went to a Game 3. It was not for the faint of heart. Ultimately, as we look at this one, Davis, just coming to you first, how did Vitality win that series against Team Spirit?
Yeah, I think that it just really comes down to the strategy of the teams. When you look at how Spirit can get kills and the way that they're able to play the game and how fast-paced and just the crazy stuff that they're able to do, you would think that they're just a dominant team. But Vitality, they're a machine in themselves, and I think it speaks a lot to their strategy and to what they're actually doing objectively as a team, knowing what they need to do to win certain rounds and knowing what they don't need to do. And I think that's the main reason that they won this series, because ultimately they were able to play smarter and play more objectively, in my opinion.
Yeah, that Game 3 on Mirage was really close. There was a couple 1v1s that could have happened there that swing the other way, and I think that goes Team Spirit pretty quickly. So it's interesting to see that was the way that it unfolded. It was a very close Game 3. And then we look and go further. Vitality played against MOUZ and went to a Game 5. MOUZ has lost to Vitality in the last two showings, so why was this series any different there, Eli?
It felt like there's just multiple members of MOUZ that were just stepping up when necessary. It was crazy that they get 13-0'd in the first game, and it looks like it's going to be a blowout. But then Spinks just stepped up. He was like 25-5 or something crazy. I can't remember the exact stat, but he was extremely positive after 9 rounds in the next game, and he just ascended and like kind of put the weight of the team on his shoulders, which was really impressive. But then you start to see Torji like pick up on some of that steam and momentum, and then Torji's popping off, and it's like they all kind of steadily lifted each other up. It all started with Spinks though, and I thought he impressed me the most, and it was like it made it very clear that if he starts performing and uplifting the team, the whole team can actually go the distance, and they had a chance.
Yeah, that game 1, MOUZ loses to Team Vitality 0-13 on Inferno. 0 in your best of 5 start. And then they lose. Actually, they win the next 2 maps, the Mirage and the Dust 2, which it felt like a grind. It felt like they were just kind of chugging along. I think Spinks made a ton of plays there and got them into the game. And then they go to Nuke and they lose 13-7, and then ultimately we end up on Train, which looked like both teams had never played Train before in their life, and this was like the first time they were doing it.
Yeah. Train is it's like the least played map, I believe.
Yeah.
And typically these series are not going to Game 5. I don't think either of these teams expected to be in a Game 5 situation, but there they were, and it just comes down to who's able to mastermind better. And like Davis said, Vitality's just, like Apex is just making calls for this squad to just gigabrain the other team constantly. Like that's how they came out. They beat Spirit when Spirit was positive 31. Like, I don't think of Counter-Strike as a game that you often win without outslaying the other team. But he's just like, he knows what rounds they need to win, how to get the bomb planted in spots where the bomb can win the round for you. You don't need the kills to win the round. It was just really impressive to see Vitality's level of strategy, and I think they were really playing that chess game and showed that they're more than just Zywoo hitting snipes.
So, Chris, as you looked at this one, did you think there was ever a chance that Mouse was going to take down Vitality in this best of 5?
I mean, yes. I was taking a look at their numbers on Nuke, and I think that was the best chance that they had. For one, they're riding the momentum. As you said, they went 0-13. You'd expect most teams to just crumble, but we do see why they are in the grand finals and why they have been in grand finals before. You know, they lost 3-0. This time could have been the same, should have been the same, in my opinion, when you go 13, right? But this time they showed that championship mentality. They came back, brought it back in games 2 and 3. Then they go into Nuke, which they have a 60% win rate on. And then as well as they have 175 wins compared to the about 50% win rate that they have on Train that was shown on statistics. But as Eli said, just the amount of shot calling, the amount of knowledge behind Vitality proved to be, you know, the winning factor at the end of the day, got them that second win to tie up the series. Ultimately, they go to a map that not either team isn't really that comfortable on, and then it comes down to shot calling. But I do think Mals are showing an upward trend here, and they are kind of showing that they're securely in that passenger seat, you know, and if they play against Vitality and they just kind of clean up some of that shot calling, clean up, you know, knowing we've gone the distance or we're at that, you know, match point, how can we change it? They can probably take a championship off of Vitality this year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I disagree completely, by the way. I think Mouse, they looked okay at times and were able to squeak this by, but I think they are still not even close to a match, and I don't think they'll win a best of 5 against them this year.
It's like that song by Oasis, Little by Little. Mouse keeps getting little by little closer and closer. Will they do it? I don't know.
Yeah, the depth. I also think this is the first series we saw them play a best of 5, where the other series have all been best of 3s.
Yeah.
And by the way, the other ones have not been close at all. Mouse has fallen underneath the pressure of that one, and that's how I thought it was going to be after the game 1. I was surprised they pulled out the Mirage and then the Dust 2 against them. But I still think when I look at it on paper that like Vitality just had a couple bad little moments, but ultimately Mouse still cannot beat this team.
I'm in the same way. I think Vitality, I definitely thought they were going to win. But I swear, after map 3, I was fully convinced Mouse won it. I was like, they won the last 2 maps. They're playing on Nuke. I've seen them win Nuke so much. No one can beat them. I was like, oh, yeah, Mouse has finally done it. And then Vitality surprises you and really handles them. I think the final score was, 13-7 on Nuke. So it's not like it was really that close.
Yeah, I was really impressed by Flame Z. Flame Z was going crazy in those last 2 games.
Yep.
I want to say I kept looking at his econ score, and this man was just saving $13,000 just in his back pocket. Like, hey, what you want? He just becomes sugar daddy for his teammates in the next couple rounds. But like, he was just undefeatable on Train. Rops was doing crazy stuff too. Rops was like the king of the B site, just perfect angles. It just felt like they were thinking one step ahead of Mouse in every case. And like you said, it is hard to see a route for Mouse to beat Vitality. If they were going to, this was the series to do it, and they still kind of fell short. So I don't know. And it's like, how many more opportunities are you going to get like that to bring Vitality to the brink? And then it sucks that they unfortunately did not close it out.
I think the only way they were going to do it is they had to take that nuke, because Mongols took the nuke off of Vitality as well. And so it's like, nuke is not Vitality's favorite map that they want to play. I don't think it's within their wheelhouse. Inferno is. They are easily the best team in Inferno. It's very obvious.
And it is Mouse's first pick.
Yeah.
Nuke is Mouse's first pick, and they have like a 75% win rate on it.
Yeah.
So I really thought it was done.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll see when those guys face off again. I'm certain they will throughout the year.
For
We're
sure.
gonna see them again. We probably won't see them at the next event. I think that a couple of them are taking a break for the next PGL event, but we'll see. We'll be following. We do want to have a fun little segment with you guys. We're going to look at a tier list. It's kind of memey, so if you're like, we need some more serious, throw it in there, or we love the memes. But it's interesting here. We do have on the top, insane but mortal would be one team, which is Vitality. And then they can save us Mouse, Donk, and then Hista. There you go, all in there. And then some, it kind of trickles down here. But Chris, go ahead. Give me your initial thoughts on this here tier list. Do you agree with it? Do you want to move some stuff around? What do you think?
I agree with it for the most part. I think if this was, put out any time before this weekend, it would just be insane.
Yeah.
Immortal.
Not mortal.
It definitely shows Mal's giving that mortal part coming in after this weekend, showing that games can be taken off. I love the part of just putting Donk in there, because I he's coming out and he's showing, but there's a lot of times I feel like his teammates are kind of falling flat. Obviously being a top player, you expect him to play all the time, but every top player needs a supporting cast. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, eventually you'll have those people that can kind of pick up the pieces, and sometimes Spirit just kind of falls flat when they're unable to really follow up when they're Donk's not having his best game. And I think Spirit needs to find a way to help him out in that chance where if he's not having that game where he can drop 30 kills and only 5 deaths, that they can pick up that slack and help get them to the championship weekend on Sunday. But right now, I think if they do that, then it becomes a team spirit, not just a Donk picture there. Mal's as well. As I said, I'm going to stick with it. I do think that eventually they can maybe take off one of those grand finals from Vitality at the moment. I think they just need to clean up some stuff. Now that they know that they can go to distance, they just have to figure out how to win once they go the distance.
Absolutely.
So I like it. The rest of them, though, I love the Celtic Shacks in there, FaZe. I want to see them do better because, of course, NA hope there. But
yeah, Eternal Fire being on there, too, and then Mongols, kind of the underdogs. But, I mean, we didn't really say anything about them. They fell 2-0 to Mouse. They didn't really look great in that playoffs. But they were there. They have some explosive moments. Yeah,
I think Eternal Fire is still figuring things out. I think they were probably the biggest letdown of Blast. They get all the way to the finals and then just fall short in the very end to Mouse. It didn't even look close. But man, this is just a great tier list overall. I think, like Chris said, there's a bit of recency bias here because this is just kind of as of the end of the last tournament. But there's some funny stuff on here. I mean, Astralis in the moldy bread category, along with Furia, and like, it's true, man. They got to make a change. It feels like they're not even close to where they should be. So, and then of course, severely in debt. We don't need to talk about the skins gambling issue, but and then the Deagle clip farmers. Those guys are hitting some crazy clips.
Yep. Nico crying on the Falcons because that's what Nico does. He just looks, when you watch him on the broadcast, he just looks anger all the time.
Yeah.
He's sad about losing.
The only problem I have with this list, and I'm really sad that Kepley's not here to go back and forth with me, I just don't understand how they have Mongols above NAVI. Like, genuinely, I think if you look at them on paper, NAVI is a lot better team. And NAVI also just beat them in the tournament and made it to the playoffs.
The Mongols beat them the tournament before. They've been going back and forth.
They've been going back and forth. So that's what I'm saying. I don't see how Mongols is in a separate category. I think NAVI should be with them.
Also in potential to save us. But I don't know. It's like NAVI has not looked very good against the others. Like, Mongols, I think, looked slightly better against Vitality and Mao. So that's why they're in that category, potential to save us. Navi hasn't looked like they had a chance against the top two. So I don't know.
I mean, FaZe is on here.
I think that whole group's a little weird.
It's like I think you need to take the best 2 or 3 players from Navi, FaZe, and G2 and make another roster, and then they can become insane but mortal as well.
Yeah, they can be insane.
It's very possible.
Like, that makes sense to me. I don't know. But that's the Counter-Strike. That's the news for this weekend. I'm going to switch gears. I'm going to let you intro this one, Eli, if you don't mind. The FaZe K-Son Invitational. 4 teams, some great Halo action.
Yeah, it was an insane weekend. I got to cast it, so that was a lot of fun. It was still the same result. On the online, it was Shopify and Optic in the grand finals. Every tournament, it was Shopify and Optic in the grand finals again. In the winners finals, it went to game 5. And then in the grand finals, it went to game 7. So literally maximum games played against each other. I did the math. These guys, throughout all the online qualifiers, in their scrims, and now on LAN, have played a total of 66 games against each other. Woo! And they are dead split tied at 33 each.
That is insane.
Which is a crazy stat.
That's also crazy because Shopify's up.
Yeah, so Shopify has won 4 out of the 5 tournaments, but it's because they're winning the games at the end of the tournament that matter more. But it's like Optic is sending them to lower bracket, Optic's taking games. It's just, I don't know. It's a really exciting time as a Halo fan because it's like the highest level of Halo we've ever seen, and it's the closest 2 of the top teams have ever been in history.
Dude, the Game 7 Slayer. What's that map called? Sorry.
Origin?
Yeah. It's so fast.
Yeah.
It was so fast. But Frosty made like crazy plays at the end of that to win that game.
Yeah, Frosty, Origin is his playground. He made a name for himself in Halo 5 back when the map was called Coliseum. There's clips of him just literally in comms before the game starts says, I'm just going to run straight for sniper and no-scoped him in the face. Like, that's their opening strat. And then guess what he did? He ran for sniper and then no-scoped him in the face. Like, that man has so much confidence on that map. He went double positive every time they were on it. It's like, I think if Optic have a chance to beat Shopify, they got to figure out how to shut down Frosty on that map.
Yeah, and it's so fast and so momentum-based that, like, the goal is to keep pressure on in that map. Like, it was very obvious that was their objective, is, like, you don't slow down, you keep getting pressure on. And I think there was definitely a turning tide for that map when Formal is actually saying, we're doing a listening in the comms, and he's like, yo, let me die. Because it's like everyone slowed down a little bit, and you saw that when that happened, I think that Shopify just took advantage of the situation. They were able to knock Formal down, and then they started kind of peppering them again, and it just kind of, it had this definitely avalanche. And Optic was able to kind of claw back into it. They got the sniper, they got a couple headshots, they kind of walked back into that Slayer, but ultimately the lead was just too much based off of those plays that Frosty made at the end of that map.
Yeah, basically, I mean, Royal 2 has to be shouted out as well on Shopify. He was playing insane. Felt like he was always in the perfect time, right place, right time to create a pinch, and just setting up Frosty for play after play. Last shot, didn't miss a shot the whole tournament. I want to say his accuracy was 70% for across the whole tournament, which is just mind-boggling. The next closest player is probably like 63%. So this roster is looking tough to beat.
Yeah.
Let me just say, I know that Matt Formal, I know he's about to lose his mind.
He's got second place, 7 lands in a row, I want to say.
I know he's just going through it. He's right there.
He looked madder at the end of the tournament than I've ever seen him. He took his hat off. He was like ready to destroy something. And they do feel kind of cheated because there wasn't a bracket reset situation. I felt like they kind of wanted the tournament to end, so they just were like, it's just a best of 7. So even though Optic won the winner's side, they didn't get any advantage, so he's also pissed off about that. There was a lot of Twitter drama about that, but
rightfully so, in my opinion.
It's gonna set up for an interesting season.
I mean, I can put my TO hat on, and like I understand it was late, and it's just one of those things where like you end up in that situation, and it's so hard to run another best of 7 because the amount of time and all the people you have to pay and stuff. So it's like I feel for the staff running the event, but I also understand like how the players feel cheated because there just wasn't enough time in the day. Because like, what are you gonna do? Play the next day?
Yeah, they basically ended up getting no advantage for winning the winners bracket. Like, at least give them one game.
I think you have to give them one game there, and if they do, they win the series, right? And so it's like normally in that situation, you do give one map. So I would imagine that didn't happen. So
it didn't.
I mean, choices, right? Ultimately, if you're a TO, you get to run it the way you want. So congratulations.
Either way, the drama sets up for an exciting season because now these two teams are definitely hating each other at this point.
Yeah, and that series can go either way, by the way. I mean, all the maps are close. There's a lot of different pieces in there. So that's going to be a fun rivalry battle throughout the next couple of weeks for sure. And then in other news, and I haven't looked at this at all, so I'm not even going to pretend like I know because that would be stupid because I don't know. The Battle of BC Smash Tournament. Eli, help us.
Yeah, maybe I'm the only guy here that cares about Smash, but it wasn't a crazy tournament. It was definitely a S tier major on both the Melee side and the Smash Ultimate side. Melee, we saw number 1 seed Zane on the Marth win. Number 1 and 2 seed face off. It was pretty predictable tournament as far as the seeds go. I'm pretty sure the placements were exactly as expected, except Mango fizzled out. Maybe he was drunk. I don't know. But Zane looked dominant in the grand finals. He 3-0'd Cody Schwab in the grand finals on the Fox. So that was impressive. On the Ultimate side, we saw a crazy upset. Gluttony from France, Wario player, took down the whole thing. 3-0ing Spargo in the grand finals.
Wario too, that's crazy.
With Wario, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, in this office is infamous because I think the only 2 games I've lost to J-Dog, I was playing Wario. So I tell people Wario is terrible because it saves me, but apparently he's not because he's winning tournaments. But shout out to Gluto. I think it's probably his biggest win ever. And he's been playing Smash for like 15, 20 years.
Hey, well, congratulations. Like I said, we cover all things esports. We appreciate everything from Counter-Strike to Super Smash Brothers. But keep running that stuff, and congratulations to the winners on that side. We were excited that you were able to do that, sir. Cool. Well, that's going to do it for Queued Up today. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead, put comments below. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. We'll see you guys on Thursday for the next exciting piece of news that happens. And thanks for queuing up with us.
Peace.
Peace.